All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Howdy, Dominique. Welcome to Queen City Toastmasters hybrid meeting for May 17th. I'm David Jones, immediate past president, and I call the meeting to order officially. And I would like to go ahead and turn it over to our current president, Vanessa Waller, to take it over, Vanessa.
Thank you, David, and welcome everyone to Queen City Toastmasters. I am your president, Vanessa Waller, and it's so exciting to see familiar and new faces tonight. I see we have a few guests joining us on Zoom, and Dr. Harvey, our VP of Membership, will be available to introduce guests who are in person as well. But for those of you who are new, we do meet every Tuesday, both on Zoom and in person at the Vine Church. So we're so excited to see everyone. Dr. Harvey, do you see any guests joining us tonight in person?
Yes, Madam Toastmaster Vanessa, for our first guest tonight, we have the honor to have Mr. Jordan here with us. Jordan is he's a corporate attorney, and so honored to have you here with us. And can you make an introduction, sir?
My name is Jordan Temple. I joined online a couple weeks ago and decided to come in and join you guys in person this time. So I hope I'm not overstaying my welcome by visiting too many times, but thank you. Happy to be here.
The more, the better. For our next guest of the evening, would you make an introduction?
Thank you. My name's Dominic. I was here a couple weeks ago. Heather invited me, and yeah, that's it.
Welcome.
Now, Dominic, do you race car like the Fast and Furious? That Dominic? Amen. I like it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our fellow Toastmaster and honorable guest, for this gentleman here, he created the beast. He's the creator of John Cabello. So I don't know, how should I introduce him?
Thank you. A pleasure being back in Toastmasters tonight. I won't take credit for creating this beast. This guy was already a beast. I just helped to enhance the beast that was already in him. Thank you.
Unleash the beast, and we have a super beast too. Back to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Harvey. Great to see our guests in person. And we have a couple of guests joining us on Zoom. Welcome. We have Jaqueen and Christopher. So welcome to Toastmasters. Is this both your first time attending a Toastmasters meeting?
This is my second meeting, actually.
Awesome. Well, welcome back to Toastmasters. And
So
do you mind sharing just your name and how you found us and your interest in joining us tonight?
yes, no problem. I'm Jaqueen O'Neill. Again, I'm meeting you guys for the second time joining in on this meeting. The first time that I got into this meeting, it was actually due to a referral from a friend of mine who happened to, I think he was actually just using an analogy one day and was just saying to the guys, you know, if you're looking to get your communication and public speaking in order, join Toastmasters, and it just stuck with me. So weeks after I finally got to the link and I tapped in with you guys, and I was intrigued by what I experienced on that evening. I felt that it was very refreshing and insightful. So I decided to get back in here today. So thank you guys for having me.
Wonderful. We are so excited you decided to come back and join us again. And Christopher, could you share, first of all, I guess your name, I already said it, but how you found out about us and your interest in Toastmasters?
Oh, my second time meeting you. I don't know if you remember me, but it was on a Saturday. But yeah, I was interested in the last time I was in it, and I just want to proceed on with it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, both of our guests, for joining tonight. As most of us know, we have an exciting packed agenda with speakers who are going to entertain us and inform us. But before we can jump into our speeches, we have Toastmasters who will be helping to facilitate and guide the meeting forward. And our most important MC of our meeting, if you will, is our Toastmaster of the evening. And that will be our immediate past president, David Jones. So let's give David a warm welcome. David, sorry, we're having trouble hearing it. Maybe looks like the mic is acting up. Sorry.
I'm on mute thing.
There
I
we
want
go.
to turn
We're
it
good.
back to you because we had a busy board meeting and you were going to talk about, I believe, voting, right? You were going to.
That's right. Good reminder. So yes, by the way, today is the local election day. So if you do need to leave early, polls close at 7:30 in North Carolina. So please don't feel bad about leaving early if you still are wanting to vote tonight. That's just a general PSA for anyone who's still wanting to vote tonight. Good reminder. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, I am David Jones, the immediate past president, and I will be your Toastmaster for tonight. Due to the voting, we didn't know how tonight was going to turn out, so I kind of made a little change in how we are going to do things tonight. My theme of the meeting is improv, and improv at Toastmasters, we tend to say improv is our table topics, and table topics is going to be handled by Alan tonight on Zoom. However, we call it improv because he asks a question and you get up and you answer the question, and it's just a 1 to 2 minute response. And you don't know the question, therefore it's considered improv. But to me, improv is when we watch Whose Line Is It Anyways? Or we go to an improv show or a comedy show where there's interaction between the people. And I wanted to kind of give you a heads up of how improv works, because I always watched in awe. I figured, well, these people are just geniuses. They just get up and talk. But there's a process to it. There is a way that they educate themselves, and they're ready for a speech at all time. They always have a bunch in their pockets. And the response is always yes and. So many times we say no to things. And let me give you an example. I might say to you, oh my God, it was so cold today. And in a normal conversation, you look at me and say, that was like 85 degrees. What are you talking about? No, it's not cold. That would end our conversation. That would end our interaction with each other. But in improv, you would know that that is a setup. So I would set up by saying, oh my God, it was so cold today. Your response would be a yes and. So yes, it was cold if we lived on the sun. And here in Charlotte, it was really hot. It was so hot that my water boiled and it started steaming like a teapot. And that is the yes and response for improv. And that's how we see everybody on TV do it. They're always setting each other up. And tonight I want to try a couple of yes ands with a few of you. You don't have to if you don't feel comfortable with it. But your response has to be fun, meaning you can't just say yes and, because you need to set up the next part of it, which we're not going to do tonight because it's too complicated. But your response was, it was so hot that my water bottle became a teapot. That allows me to come back in and either accept that or move on. I would say, oh, it was so hot with the teapot. And then I would start a conversation about a teapot in my car. Or I would say yes and to you. I'd say, yes, it was really hot, so hot that it boiled, but my tires actually melted on my car and I had to get on the railway to drive here because I didn't have any rub on my tires. And that's the improv, how they are always working. They're always setting up. It's like chess. You're setting up the next move for the person. And that's going to be a yes and. And I'd like to try it with a very experienced Toastmaster, Mr. Eugene. I want to see if you could do a yes and for me. Now, if you follow Eugene Ellington on Instagram, he is a fashionista. He dresses up, he takes a picture, and then he tells you what he's wearing. With that, I'd like to say, well, that is a beautiful blue shirt you're wearing today. I was wondering why you chose that blue shirt.
Well, thank you. My apologies. I stepped outside. Well, I actually looked out my window this morning and noticed how blue the sky was and said, you know what? That's the color I'm going with for the day. And I wanted to make sure I match your shoes as well when I came into Toastmasters. So that's why I chose the blue shirt.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Now, that didn't really leave me a lot of room for a following setup. I thought he was going to say, I do have a beautiful blue shirt at home, but today I wore a white shirt. And that would kind of set me up for some kind of conversation about something. And that's just an example, but we'll come back to some of you throughout the night. I want to go ahead and get the meeting started with our joke/inspirational speaker for tonight. And that is going to be Andrea Chocolate Butterfly Williams. That's actually her name. Yes.
Thank you. I've been caught in one of those yes and moments with Mr. David. Put me on the spot a couple of weeks ago. Had me through a speech. But today we got improv, right? So how many of us are parents? How many of us was prepared to be a parent? That's about right, because it says that only 12% of the people feel prepared to be parents. Now, I was that parent, that mother, while I was pregnant, I was busy reading all the books. At the time, it was Dr. Spock, I believe. That was the biggest book back 30 years ago. And so I'm reading the book. I had babysat my nieces and nephews. I had did a lot of things that I thought I was prepared to be a mom. And then the child comes. She came May 19th, 1992, and she started screaming. It's 2:00 in the morning. I want to go to sleep. So I had to improv my way through that. I had to make sure I understood what this cry was and what that cry was and what to make sure she was okay. And to be a part of that, you have to do 5 things that they talk about in improv speaking. First of all, you have to accept the offer. The offer is the yes and. Yes, I'll do that. The next thing you need to know is what the offer is. What are you up for? What's the question on the table? What's the statement that's being made that you need to continue? And now I should have brought my phone up here. I was trying not to bring my phone up here. And then the third one was you had to listen. You have to listen. To be a parent, you have to be able to listen to that child, understand their needs. I don't know if the dads have the same feeling, but moms, we can hear our kids cry, and it could be a whole bunch of kids screaming and hollering, but we know that voice of our child. So that's that thing about improv. You know what that voice is that you need to get out. And the other thing that it said that was very interesting to me, that being a great improv speaker is you have to be a team player. So it was something that David just did when he asked Gene the question. He said, he wanted him to continue the conversation. So that's sometimes what our kids want us to do. They'll ask us crazy things out the blue. I was that child. Well, Mama, why is the sky blue? Well, who made the sky? Well, where'd the sky come from? My mom said, I'm tired of you. I was that child that she told to stop looking at Sesame Street, because I would sit there and dissect that this wasn't real. These are Muppets. You can't tell me these are Muppets and puppets and then tell me they're real things. So I was that weird child. My kids ended up, they say the next generation is going to be even more inquisitive, even more bad. So my daughter, my one that's about to be 30 in a couple of days, she was so inquisitive. She would pay attention to the most slightest thing. And like she would see you with your bald head, and she would say, so do you have cancer? Because she attributed having cancer with having no hair. So it wasn't popular a few years back. A lot of people didn't have bald heads. So if you had a bald head, Amber was just blank and would ask you, so do you have cancer? Now me, being a mother, had to improv. No, darling, everybody who has a bald head does not have cancer. Some people choose to have a bald head. So that is kind of the way that improv works. And improv as a parent, it's been the best experience of my life, and also the scariest. Back to you, Toastmaster.
I got it. Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate it. And another part of yes and is important for us as parents, because as parents, we tend to say no a lot. But if you learn to say yes and, it kind of helps. For instance, if Andrea's daughter wants to spend the night at a friend's house, she can say, yes, that sounds awesome. And as soon as you do all of your chores and your homework, you're welcome to go do it. You don't have to say no and be negative. Always be positive and say yes and. Now, tonight we have a grammarian who's on Zoom, and that's going to be Toastmaster Neil. Neil, do you want to tell us about your role?
Thank you, Toastmaster David. Good evening, everyone. I will be the grammarian for today. There are a couple main tasks I have. The first one is to watch out for filler words. These are the words which are really difficult for us to say, but end up being our verbal crutches. And so while it might be annoying hearing it, it does make us better to become more aware of our filler words to avoid them. That includes things like and so. The second thing I will do is introduce the word of the day. Let me see if I can technologically pull this off. Does that show up? So the word of the day is cognizant. A definition, one of my favorite words, I think because it has the letter Z in it. There's not many words that we use in everyday English that have the word Z in it. But a definition of cognizant is knowledgeable of something, especially through personal experience. This is from merriam-webster.com. Some synonyms for cognizant would be mindful or aware. To use it in an example, I am cognizant of the fact that it's more difficult to use new words in improv situations. So I applaud anyone who's able to pull off using the word of the day today. And my last role or task will be to point out any particularly compelling turns of phrases or ways of wording things that I think I'd like to point out to the group. And so that will be my role as grammarian. Back to you, Toastmaster David.
Thank you, Mr. Grammarian. Appreciate it. And I am cognizant that I am wearing a hat. And if you've been here before, you know that every time I am Toastmaster, I wear a hat. I bought this hat because it's called a, let's see, I know, you have to know it. What the name of this hat is? Pork pie hat. Nobody in the world knows this. Except for Eugene. It's called a pork pie hat. That's exactly what it is. All right, and next up is going to be our timer, Dr. Eric. Now again, improv, you don't always have to be politically correct. You can have fun. You can say what's on your mind. Dr. Eric, when you come up, as a surgeon, you can come on up here. As a surgeon, I believe you and I had a conversation, and the answer is yes, and. You and I had a conversation about dentists and how dentists can be called doctors. And you were going to come up with something about another term for a dentist other than doctor. Have you come up with anything on that?
Yes, and that is correct. Dentists can be called words other than doctor. And given that I married a dentist, the word in our house for dentist is yes, ma'am. Do you have any comments about that?
Oh, you're setting me up. Yeah. Okay. Well, you took me off guard. So yes, I do not have a comment. Anyways, I'm going to let you be the timer. So go ahead.
All right, we got a little off track there. Thank you. So we have two speakers this evening. Each of their speeches will be from 5 to 7 minutes. As the timer, you do not have to be worried because I will be cognizant of the time. And at 5 minutes, the green light, which is over here, will go on. At 6 minutes, the yellow light, and at 7 minutes, the red light. We will also have table topics, and each table topic speaker can speak for 1 to 2 minutes. At 1 minute, the green light will go on. At 1.5 minutes, the yellow light, and at 2 minutes, the red light. And finally, we will have speech evaluations for our 2 speeches, and they each can speak for 2 to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, the green light will go on. At 2.5 minutes, the yellow light, and at 3 minutes, the red light. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you. That was a very good interaction. You set me up for a follow-up, and I failed at it. All right, before we get to our speakers, I would like to invite our newest member, Heather, up. Heather actually joined today. Heather, we actually have a ribbon for you as a new member. And I also have a yes and question for you. I didn't come up with them yet. I'm going to think of one. Jenny, do you have a yes and question for our newest member that you want to throw out? It has to be something that is unique and ridiculous, where it's like, that doesn't make sense, but they have to respond to it.
My question is around your choice of fashion, and what was your inspiration for this beautiful floral landscape that inspired you this morning when you got ready?
Answer irrationally?
No, that was more of a table topics question. I would go with, some people could wear a floral dress, but you're wearing a plain white dress. Why did you choose that outfit today?
Well, I am cognizant of the fact that you're wearing a hat, but this dress is yellow. And I was feeling very colorful this morning. Actually, I wasn't. I was kind of gloomy, and maybe I went for a bright color to brighten my mood. Do you do that, David?
Yes, every day I pick out my outfits and my hats for when I come to Toastmasters. Thank you. And thank you for being a member of Queen City. Appreciate it. All right. Up next is our speakers, and we're going to have what was the word used? What used for John Capella? The beast. Unleash the beast. John Capella, he's giving just a casual storytelling speech. It's about 7 minutes, and it's called Press On. So please welcome Mr. John Capella. He's got a prop, so this will be fun.
Good evening, Queen City. I'm sad to tell you that I don't have a prepared speech tonight. I simply have a story. And if you utilize a story in communication, it could be a very effective tool. But it's my opinion that to truly be a good storyteller, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be genuine. You have to be real. Now let me ask the question. Who here has one of those embarrassing moments, those experiences that you don't want anyone else to know about, and that you keep buried in that archive of a brain, hoping that even you yourself might forget about it so that it for sure never gets found out? Okay, I have such a story, and against my better judgment, I'm going to share it with you tonight. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment, or I just want to take this vulnerability thing to the next level. But I can assure you this story is very real. It is extremely embarrassing, but it helped remind me that in life, sometimes we have embarrassing moments and we just need to be able to laugh it off and press on. It started in the mid-1990s. Now, I had just graduated from a university with a finance degree. I'd moved up to Chicago, and I didn't have a job. Job market was tough, but I was hopeful for my opportunities. And then it came. I received a letter for an inquiry to have my first interview with a very prominent financial firm in downtown Chicago, XYZ Financial. I scraped together all the money I could to go out and buy the best suit that $50 could buy, because that's all I had left at the time. But I was super excited. Here was my shot. Interview day. My interview was in downtown Chicago about 9:30 a.m. I'm on the commuter train. It is rush hour, so I am packed to the gills with all the other rush hour commuters. Next stop, Madison Avenue. The doors on your left open at Madison Avenue. Of course, I'm on the right. And I need to work my way through this packed train car so that I make sure I get out on my stop on time. And the doors start closing. So I jump out the door, and thankfully I make it. But when I do, I hear this very peculiar sound. I thought to myself, that was a peculiar sound. Information that will later become extremely relevant. But at the time I ignored it and I pressed on. I come out of Madison Avenue train station. I start walking toward XYZ Financial Office Building. And the forecast that day was hot and humid in Chicago. And yet I felt oddly comfortable, almost breezy, if you will. Yet another piece of information I probably should have paid closer attention, but I chose to ignore it. And I pressed on. I arrived at XYZ Financial Building. Arrived 15 minutes early. I'm feeling good. I'll pop into the office floor where they're at, and I'll go into the restroom and kind of make sure that I'm presentable. And it was there a good Samaritan apprised me some information that will make this story turn or make a very dramatic turn. He said, excuse me, sir, you seem to be having a suit malfunction there. He was being kind. I turned around, look in the mirror, and I'm absolutely mortified to realize that that sound I heard on the train platform was in fact my suit pants ripping from the top of my belt all the way down to my lower crotch. Anyone who was commuting from Madison Avenue train station to XYZ Financial would know that on that day, I wore light blue cotton jockey underwear. I told you this was embarrassing. Needless to say, I had to think fast. I had 15 minutes to the most important job interview of my entire life. I had to go somewhere where I could think. Come on, Capello, think. What are you going to do? Yes, that was me. I was troubleshooting in that stall. I had 15 minutes to figure it out. Think, Capello, think. Aha, idea number one. I will call and cancel. This is considered emergency, right? A suit malfunction? Wait a minute, I can't do that. It's too important. Scrap that idea. Okay. Aha, idea number two. So, and I don't mean that filler word that a grammarian might call out. I mean needle and thread sew that grandma would do. I'll go out, I'll get a needle and thread, and I'll patch that thing right up. Except I have one problem. I don't know how to sew. Scrap that idea. Come on, I gotta find it out. Then it hit me. Idea number three. This was a solution. This was going to work. It had to work because failure was not an option. You see, I tore my pants right down the seam line, all the way down in a perfect line. And if I position the fabric in a certain way and utilize my gluteus maximus muscles, I could prevent the exposure from occurring and leaking. You can put together and fill in the blanks. So I decided to proceed to XYZ Financial interview. Yes, I really did that. I really did that. Hi, I'm John. I'm here for my interview. Oh, Mr. Capello, we've been expecting you. Would you like to take a seat in our waiting room? Mr. Smith will be right with you. Did she just say seat? Oh my God, she knows. She knows. I was panicking. I was more worried about them finding out about my suit problem than I was about the interview. Mr. Smith comes out and gets me, and we go into the interview. And like any interviews, he asked me the typical interview questions. And one such question I remember, he says, John, what skills do you possess that might help you in this role here at XYZ Financial? Without thinking much about it, it just kind of blurted out of my mouth. I think while under pressure. I can troubleshoot through a difficult situation and choose the best path forward. I said, that's very good, John. Do you have an example? No, I absolutely do not. Needless to say, the interview starts wrapping up and I'm still paranoid. I start walking towards the door and I'm walking with my back to the exit so I don't reveal anything. I'm like a Japanese businessman. Yeah, okay, thank you. Have a good time. Now, your next logical question might be, John, did you get the job? No, I didn't. Surprisingly, the feedback from XYZ Financial HR was I came off as a little stiff and perhaps a little distracted. Yes, it didn't work out for me, but I learned 3 valuable lessons that day. 1, pay attention to little details. Number 2, buy a good suit. And number 3, when life hands you those embarrassing moments, you just got to be able to laugh and press on. Coach, Toastmaster Dave.
Great job. Great job for coming up with that a few hours ago, I think is when you came up with that. Now, Vanessa, I think you're from Chicago as well, aren't you?
I am. I'm from the western suburbs. So technically, if we're splitting hairs, I'm a suburban Chicago person.
Okay, well, your yes and question is, I was very surprised being from Chicago that you indicated that you prefer New York style pizza over Chicago deep dish. In fact, I think you told me that the next time you get a Chicago deep dish, you're going to get a rolling pin and roll it out so it's nice and thin like a New York pizza. Have you ever had the opportunity to do that?
Well, David, since you're talking about pizza, I'll let you in on a little secret, which is the fact that the reason I prefer New York pizza has nothing to do with the dimensions or size of the crust, but everything to do with the cheese. And here's why. When I was a young child, I ate a really disgusting grilled cheese sandwich. And from then on, I decided I no longer wanted melted cheese. And yes, that includes cheese on pizza. The problem with deep dish pizza, as famous as it is that it's covered in a very thick layer of cheese, and it's hard to peel that cheese off if you decide you don't want to eat pizza with the cheese. So the reason I prefer New York pizza is actually because I can discreetly peel back that layer of cheese on top. So that's the real reason, the secret reason why I will always take New York pizza over deep dish.
Nice. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Would you agree with that? No. John is probably a Chicago deep dish guy. All right. No? Okay. All right. So Jets Pizza. Perfect. All right. Our next speaker is going to be Dr. Harvey, and he's here to surprise us. I'm going to do a slideshow. So if you give me 30, come on up, but give you a little thing. Just give me 1 second before you start. That's for you. Thank you, sir. And please welcome Dr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster David Jones. Good evening, fellow Toastmaster and honorable guests here as well as on Zoom. Does that sound like my Michael Buffer to you guys? Now, let me ask you all this. Do you dream of leaving your corporate job, your boss breathing down your neck, all the responsibility, all the constraint to go on a sailing yacht, something at least a 50-footer, while being able to make money remotely on your own term, on your own hours, and live very comfortably, not like no couple who sail on the sailing yacht and then get the money run out or have to really look for a discount. Well, fellow Toastmaster and honorable guests here as well as online, I'm here to tell you that it is completely possible because I tried it. Not on the yacht yet, but on starting my blog that really paid big bucks for you. So here I'll show you 3 examples of my blogs. The first blog is from Seeking Alpha. How many people here know about Seeking Alpha? 2, 3. How about online? Have you guys heard about Seeking Alpha? So if you guys are into stock, chances are that you have heard Seeking Alpha. It is it is the premier user or contributor platform, the #1 platform in the world. It's taken over all of the other platforms, even off the Wall Street Journal or all of the other platforms. No one uses it, but mostly use Seeking Alpha nowadays. My story is that I came from a very poor background. I listened to my mom and pop, listening to the teacher to the very best that I could. It did not do me any good. I was a miserable physician. I was fully cognizant of my situation. I was not a surgeon like the good doc here. I did not enjoy it at all. So in the initial years, when I just launched out, because I put in 10 years for my dad, actually over 10 years, and then I decided to pursue my passion, following my intuition, but it was not rosy. However, my intuition told me that, hey, let's just for now do something that you enjoy, and that is to write the blog. So I started to write about investment research, and that book right there, The Snowballing Effect, written by Warren Buffett. Let me show you that book. I had no skill, no knowledge about investment at all. My teacher wrote the book. I read all the book by Warren Buffett, Benjamin Graham, Philip Fisher, all of his mentor, the whole 9 yards. And then I just started to blog my experience, what I've learned, and apply that to biotech investing. Over time, Chicken Alpha platform grew. And in that time span, I built over almost 15,000 of followers. And then I went to my second platform. It's Dr. Trent Biosite. This is nothing more than a Google blogger. It cost me $0. That's the invested capital into that business for Chicken Alpha as well as Dr. Trent Biosite. And for this, I started to provide investor relation and public relation services. Now, I did not know about any of this, but the seasoned guys saw something in me, multiple guys. They wanted to recruit me into their team, their firm. But as someone who does not follow any protocol except for my dad, I denied all the offer and started to launch my own gig. It worked out beautifully. Now my third blog, I started today. Today, just a few hours before I came here. Because when I shared my link to LinkedIn, LinkedIn kept prompting me to start a newsletter. I pressed the button, fill in some of the blank. Guess what, guys? Within the first hour, over 1,000 followers already, or subscriber. As you learn to start your blog, or you write your blog, subscriber or follower is everything. It's a key metric or a KPI for you to keep track of your growth. And before I left here, that figure ballooned up even some more. So I'm very, very happy. It takes me to the next part of my presentation. What about you? I mean, I'm no different from you. I had no knowledge, zero knowledge. I come here to learn from the great master, the beast, and the super beast like you guys, improve myself. Now, if I can do it, I'm not even a super beast. I strongly believe everyone here can do it. So here are some of the key experiences that I learned from building my various blogs. I love to boil down to 7 points, but of course there are some more than 7 points. The first key is to find a niche that you are passionate about. You don't have to be an expert in that niche, but learn about it, just like how I've been reading. And then as you research more, as you learn more, you will build and stack up one skill on top of another. Make sure when you blog, do it consistently and let your followers know. Do it once monthly, once weekly, or every day. I like to do it more than other people. I like to put in more work, and I love to improvise. So whenever any market development, anything come up with, I make sure I have an article, a research for my followers. And also make sure that you keep the content engaging. Answer all of their questions. Don't just brush them off. Answer it in a professional manners, even if they criticize you. And if you treat it like a job, it'll provide for you just like a regular job, even though it started out as a hobby. Next is to think big, set huge goal. Now, you would never believe it, but those guys on Chicken Alpha, all the top guys, they made at least $1 million or more just from their subscription service. I mean, you don't think it's possible, but it's definitely there. I know those guys. And last but not least, just do it. Just do it. Don't think so much, just do it. Other people can do it. You can do it too. In summary, fellow Toastmaster and honorable guests, I'm Harvey Chen. I did it. I have no special skill except the willingness to walk into the unknown, to look like a fool. My pants has not been spread yet, but my pants did drop when I did a martial art competition. Just do it, fellows Toastmasters and honorable guests, and you will be very happy that you've done so.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. All right. And with that, can I get a timers report? Dun, dun, dun.
Yes, you can. Thank you. Toastmaster John spoke for 7 minutes and 44 seconds, all of which was very entertaining. And Dr. Harvey, 6 minutes and 59 seconds, all of which was very informative. Thank you both.
Perfect. Thank you. And we don't have a ballot counter tonight, so we'll just, everybody's a winner tonight. It's Little League football or whatever. All right, and next up is going to be our table topics. We're running a little behind, so I want to go ahead and get Toastmaster Allen as our table topics master for the evening. He's on Zoom. If you'd like to introduce your role and get us going.
Good evening. My name is Alan Kimayu, and I am your table topic tonight. One thing that I like about this table topic is the fact that it gives you the ability to deliver a speech without any prior preparation, and it also puts you in a position where you always, be calm, cool, collected, while you'll be cognizant of your time. And also, there's not a wrong or right answer, and you can even share personal stories to back up your ideas. I will be calling one or two volunteers to go over a few questions so you can just answer from your heart. And I'm looking for my first. It could be on site, it could be online.
We have one here in person. We have Eugene, who's raised his hand.
Okay, Eugene. Thank you very much for volunteering. So Mark, I can see Eugene.
Right. Here he comes.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Take it away.
Thank you very much. So yeah, my question to you is not a question. I'll start with a little statement. People always say, "Oh, we deserve a second chance," and some people believe we don't deserve a second chance. What do you think is a second chance, and do you think everybody deserves a second chance? Thank you.
Thank you, Table Topics Master. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters and honorable guests. That's a great question. I think that second chances are very important. We all have had experiences, even as John mentioned in his story, about not getting that job after having such an interesting experience with his trousers ripping down to his lower crotch. That was one of the most entertaining stories I've ever heard in a long time. Embarrassing, but very entertaining. But on that, second chances, I believe, it's just one of those things that it's a normal life experience. We all have had experiences where things don't work out the way that we'd like them to, or we may have made a bad choice that might have put us in a bad situation. And so in those instances where, society looks at you like you're done, I think it gives you an opportunity to do something different with your life and become that person that you've always wanted to be. So it's my belief that second chances are very important, and we all should have an opportunity to do that. Thank you.
I believe you're muted, Alan. Alan, you're on mute.
Excuse me. This whole time I was on mute. One more person, please. If it could be online, it could be on in person.
We have one here, unless others, and our newest member. So we have one guest and one member.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
It's Heather.
Thank you, David.
Oh yeah. So last time we were there in person, you spoke, and that was great. So yeah, now I'm just gonna ask you one thing. So what's the worst advice you've been given?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
What is the worst advice you've been given in your life? Like you went to seek for a piece of advice from a friend, for a family member, because you're going through a situation, and you ended up saying to yourself that that's the worst piece of advice you've received because you were seeking for some emotional support.
Okay, good question. I think the worst advice to give anybody is to discourage somebody from something that they believe fully in doing. Because from my experience, we all have our own personal experiences, and our responses can be loaded from our own interpretation of what we think. And I find that this has been a huge challenge as a parent, to not think that I know everything. And I feel like the more that I know, the less that I know. And so it's really just letting people do and experience through their own experiences. And I gotta keep talking. So and basically I feel like that for my daughter too. She challenges me, and sometimes I think things should be a certain way. And when I sit back and I realize it doesn't always have to look the way that we think it's supposed to look, and that we can learn a lot from each other in all experiences and walks of life. So the worst advice is to discourage somebody from something that they fully believe in. Thank you.
very much.
Thank you, David.
Do we have time for one more?
I think we can do one more. Yes.
It could be online, it could be on site.
Any guests back there? All right. Got our newest guest. Was it Justin? Jordan? Jordan? All right, Jordan. You got Jordan. All right. Thank you for.
Okay, Jordan, thank you very much. So this is going to be the last of this. Can you please describe yourself and tell us what makes you unique?
Yes, I'm, I guess everybody has their own unique things about them. I would say that my background and growing up with my two brothers and moving around the country to different places, and ultimately, going to college and going to law school makes me a little bit unique. Hopefully I'm unique in your eyes for those reasons. Now I have a child who is the joy of my life, and I struggle with the same thing that you just spoke about. And so I think my prior background and experience makes me unique. Thanks.
Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay, back to you, Toastmaster Davies.
Thank you, Toastmaster Allen. And with that, we'll get a timers report from Dr. Eric.
Hold your applause. Thank you, though. Eugene spoke for 1 minute and 10 seconds, Heather 1 minute and 11 seconds, and Jordan, who was a guest, did a great job at 56 seconds. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Timer. And with that, we're going to turn it over to our general evaluator for tonight. And once again, please welcome Andrea Chocolate Butterfly Williams. I didn't say for a long time. I felt real uncomfortable, but there we go.
It's gonna come secondhand. Wonderful, wonderful meeting. So I am going to go right into our evaluators because I'm cognizant of the time, as I know we were running a little behind. So our first evaluator of today will be Jenny, and she will be evaluating John.
Thank you, Toastmaster Andrea. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. So I will be evaluating John, and I'm just always so enamored by your speeches. Your stage presence is incredible, and I'll break it down into 3 distinct categories: content, structure, and delivery. I know there was a few things that you wanted me to look out for in the way that you set up the story, wanting to, share something that was very vulnerable, which it was. And I'm sure it's happened to us before, the dreaded wardrobe malfunction, your timing and your pauses and kind of, just overall delivery. So with that, I'll start with content. Again, sharing a story that is super genuine, authentic, embarrassing. I thought it was such a great use of the storytelling practice, right? Just, putting us in your emotions of what was going through your body. I just thought it was such a great relatable topic that has probably, if not that, something similar has happened to many of us. So I think in terms of content, that really kind of shined through. Again, your experience in the train and doing all like the gestures of what was like going on, like, ripping the paper, I think like the sound effects, I thought was a really impactful moment. Like we can kind of like hear, what was happening. So that was a really great part to your speech. Being cognizant of your surroundings. I think you kind of put us in that moment where we were with you in the bathroom, like sitting in the chair, and you're like freaking out. So I think content wise, you really just infuse a lot of color. I think it was a really colorful speech of yours. Structure wise, I thought it was great, good opening from the get-go, like letting us know what to expect, right? That you were going to be sharing something and kind of taking us through this journey around an interview process, which is kind of an uncomfortable thing to go through, like a lot of nerves, right? And having that layer on top was really interesting. Then during the actual process of going through it, so you kind of took us through that. And then I loved how you ended it with closing. We understood that you didn't get the role, but that there was something really powerful. What you said, those three things: pay attention to the small details, buy a good suit, and laugh it off. And in terms of delivery, I think you always kill it in this category, right? Your use of inflections, your vocal variety is really powerful. We're able to follow along and like get, we're kind of at the edge of our seat as well. Good use of hand gestures. I think you always like use the stage really well, but also your hand gestures really just kind of adds that like dynamic animation. It was hilarious, which I know that was one of the things that you wanted to make us laugh. So good use of sense of humor. The wiggling on the train, I thought was another good, part to that. And yeah, I mean, I think overall, I don't have a lot of feedback in terms of what to improve. The only thing I would say, I think your closing can be a little bit more impactful, like maybe challenge the crowd or the audience to take something away. Like what I took away was that show up in your birthday suit, but just show up, or like something, just, but yeah, I think that's basically my takeaway. But great job. And yeah, just happy to see you do it. And back to Andrea. Yep.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jenny. And I'm gonna keep the mask on for right now. So the next person I'm going to bring up is our evaluator for Dr. Harvey Tran, and that is Toastmaster Vanessa.
Thank you, Andrea. And thank you, Dr. Harvey, for another high energy and engaging speech. One thing I always love about your speaking style is that you aren't afraid to just jump into giving a speech. Regardless of what it's about, you bring that same enthusiasm and high energy to each and every speech that you do. And I wanted to point out your technique of starting big, so to speak, because I think sometimes if we are starting a speech, we may be feeling those nervous jitters, and we may be tempted to actually get quiet and kind of hunch down and not just express our full range of feelings. And I think you illustrate the beauty of how you can use those full range of vocal skills and emotion and bring that into the opening of your speech. And you did that in such a way that we all sat up in our chairs and we were all ready to listen to your speech. As always, it was incredibly informative. I didn't know that there were so many unique blog ideas. In fact, when I think of the word blog, I usually think of a blog about recipes that you can cook. And I never would have thought that you could do a blog that's so technical and aligned with your field as a doctor. So I'm glad that you shared all the nuances of how you can make a blog that is very specific. And by sharing something about yourself, you made a connection with the audience. I love the idea of the three pillars of good speaking. There's pathos, which is appealing to emotion. There's logos, which is appealing to logic and reason. And finally, there is ethos, which is getting the audience to trust you as a speaker. By talking about yourself and your own personal experience with this blog, you automatically built that trust with your listeners. Excellent job with that. One thing that I think you could challenge yourself to do even more in upcoming speeches is to work in more strategic pauses. What I mean by this is that perhaps you could consider, after a slide that makes a particular point, you could take just a brief pause, look around your room at the audience, and then go to the next slide and say, speaking of that topic, and go into your next section. Strategic pauses can help us focus even more on your core message. If you want to really challenge yourself, this may be hard with a technical topic like you just talked about tonight, but I love the idea of making your speech fit into a classic story. For instance, most storylines will have some exposition, they'll have some rising action where things get a little more exciting. They will have a key turning point in the middle of that story where we find out what happens to the main character of the story. In this case, maybe it could be you in your blog. And then finally, there's a resolution. Using that story arc can also give a lot of liveliness and relatability to your speeches. Overall, I think you did an excellent job conveying such an interesting and carefully thought out topic. And I'm so excited to hear your next speech. I'll turn it back to our general evaluator.
Thank you, Toastmaster Vanessa. So we're going to now call up our grammarian for this evening, and he's on the line. If you can
Thank you,
give us a report.
Toastmaster Andrea. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Overall, everyone did a great job. Everyone was quite clean with their speaking today. Just to run down the list here, Vanessa was very clean. I didn't hear any filler words. I really like the phrase 3 pillars of appealing to the audience. David, I actually heard 2 ahs or ums, which was surprising. I think this is when Eric caught you off guard and threw the improv back at you. Eugene was very clean. Andrea, I did hear 2 ums, I believe. And I really like the phrase, you know the voice that you need to get out, which you used in your invocation. Eric, you're very clean. Heather was also very clean. John and both of our speakers, John and Dr. Harvey, were clean. I didn't hear any filler words. Alan as well was clean. Jordan had a couple ums as he was getting started, but did a great job after that. And Jenny, I heard a couple of ums. Additionally, I did hear the word of the day, cognizant, from David, Heather, Dr. Harvey, and Jenny. And I apologize if I missed anyone. Overall, great job, everyone. And back to you, Andrea.
Thank you, Toastmaster Neil. And I said cognizant about 3 times, but we're going to let that go. So now I'm going to call on my next person. The timer, he's letting me know that it's his time to speak. It's a Toastmaster thing, but I got you. So now we're going to hear from Toastmaster Eric giving us our timers report.
Thank you once again. Toastmaster Jenny spoke for 3 minutes and 42 seconds, and Toastmaster Vanessa for 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you. And this was a wonderful meeting, right? First of all, we started off with improv. That is something that I love about Toastmasters, that we can come up and we can talk. Before I became a member, I could talk, which I believe is why Heather is still here, because she talked almost every week before she became a member. You guys who haven't been here didn't know that. But it allows you to get practice in and get comfortable and get your style together before you're forced to go, let me do an icebreaker speech, which some people, I don't remember the guy's name, but he just jumped up and did his. And that was shocking to me. I was like, okay, go for it. And so that is one thing I loved about the meeting. The other thing is we started on time, so we can end on time. We've been very cognizant of the time. But the best part of the night this evening was the speeches. Both of the people that came up tonight, they do very well of grasping our attention and keeping our attention. But when he sat on the toilet, I'm sorry, I almost fell off the chair. So, and Dr. Tran always comes up and says, Toastmasters. Now I missed it. Now okay, everybody, how does he usually say Toastmasters, Toastmasters? Can we do it? Toastmasters, Toastmasters. He didn't do that today, so I don't know what's going on. So he just did it one time. I don't know what that was. That's my only suggestion, is that you stay on point, because I need the Toastmasters rah rah every time. Anyway, but everybody did very well. The only thing I wanted to say about John's speech is that I would have said, because it was something you missed in your speech. You were talking about he asked you the question, do you have an example? And you didn't give him one. I would follow the ending of that speech should be about how you should take that opportunity, even if it's an embarrassing moment, to talk about it. Dr. Tran, the one thing I wanted to hear from you today was that I wanted, and I think actually your evaluator said, I wanted a story about, like, I started, you talk about, your humble beginnings and so on and so forth, but I wanted to say, okay, so I started off with like 5 people following me in LinkedIn, and then I got 1,000 the next day. So something that grabs our attention and keeps our attention. But I will let you know, people were taking pictures of your slides. So I wanted you to know that you were very effective, and I saw that people were really paying attention. So both of you are very good at keeping people's attention, giving valuable information, and that was what this meeting is about. And I am so happy to release the mic to our Toastmaster today, David.
Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate it. All right, and we're about to close out the meeting. Next week is going to be a great meeting. I just want to find out from Carla. Carla, are you able to sign into our system and sign up for roles? Have you got access to that?
I don't have any idea. I haven't tried yet. I just
Okay.
keep on showing up.
Okay.
You want me to try?
You should have had an email sent to you so that you can get into our system. Because I'd just like to see you sign up for roles. I mean, that's why you're here. So.
I haven't
All right.
seen, I have not seen that email.
Okay, I'll make sure we resend it to you. For those of you who don't know, South Park is our sister club. They meet Monday at 12 o'clock on Zoom. So when you join Queen City, you get to go to their meetings and practice your speaking twice a week. Therefore, and they get to come to our club and also do the same here. So, but we just want to make sure you have access to do it. Next week is going to be a great meeting. We're going to have Sarah Mary from South Park as our Toastmaster. We have 3 speakers, Neil, who is our grammarian, and then we have a guest speaker, Tiffany Vandermark. She is a professional public speaker. She goes around the companies and gives speeches. So it'll be nice to see her here. And then we also have Eric Laxer, our timer, giving a speech. So make sure you sign up for roles and you're part of it. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to our president, Vanessa Waller.
Thank you, David. And thank you so much to everyone who participated in our meeting tonight. It's very good as always. Before we wrap up, I want to make a quick announcement. June 7th, during our regular meeting time, we are having officer elections. So if you're able to make it, please try to make it either on Zoom or in person. And you can both nominate people to serve as an officer, or actually just we'll go ahead and elect people based on the nominations on the floor. To give a quick review for those who are newer to the club, we have several positions in our club leadership that need to be filled each year. I'm currently serving as president. David Jones is our immediate past president. We have Elvis serving as our VP of Education. Dr. Harvey is our VP of Membership. Lon is our VP of Public Relations. Jamie Richardson is our treasurer. We've got Jimmy on Zoom here, who's our secretary. And we have Sergeant at Arms, which is currently vacant because Connor, our old Sergeant at Arms, has just moved. But all of these roles are open for any members, and you don't have to have particular experience. We just encourage everyone to try and think if that's something you'd be interested in. We would love to have more nominations. The more the merrier, as the saying goes. So please consider whether you'd be interested in one of those roles. And before we end our meeting, it's customary for us to ask our guests their thoughts and takeaways from the meeting. And I know we have guests both in person and on Zoom. So Dr. Harvey, are you available to give a little interview to our guests in person?
Jordan, can you share?
So if you'd like to share anything, you're welcome to. No pressure either way.
I would like to kick off with our guest, Jordan. Jordan, would you share your input on the meeting?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, this is I wish I had the question back when I sat down. I'm just like going through it, but this is exactly why I'm here. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Excellent. We're very happy and glad that you are here. Dominic, yes, thank you. Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, it was great tonight. I always find it super interesting, everyone's stories and different ways of presenting. So yeah, I'll definitely be coming again. Thanks.
Thank you, Dominic. Yes. Would you like to share some comment about the meeting?
Oh, well, hello guys. My name is Fitz. I joined the club maybe about 3 weeks ago. Just got back from Greece. I was doing a 3-week vacation there. Nice to meet everyone. I think the meeting went very well. Like the way, well, I love your speech. I love how informative your speech was as well. And I just wanted to ask, what made you choose a white suit today?
Oh. My friend, you won the honor award of the year. Back to you, sir.
Thanks, Dr. Harvey.
Well, I do, Vanessa, if I could real quick, I want to put somebody on the spot, and that's why we come here to speak. And Dominic, I don't know why I call him Dominic. He is doing a rock climbing event. Are you still doing that? Yes. June 4th, you want to talk about it, announce your organization you're with? And
Sure. So I started a little group after I was in the military, and I started a group afterwards for, yeah, really anyone. And one of the things I was having troubles with after separating was I was isolated. I was by myself. So I started a group. It's called Warrior in the Garden. It's better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war. And it's about getting people together, getting people out of their homes if they're alone or isolated or whatever. And June 4th, we're going rock climbing. It's at Crowder's Mountain. Would love to see anyone and everyone. Should be a good time. We have all the gear, all the stuff. We have a lot of experience out there. So even if you're a newbie or have no idea what you're doing, feel free to come out. Would love to see you. Thanks.
thank you much. And you can find the group, it's called Earth and Soul Adventures with Rachel Mango on Meetup. And but if you want more information, you can ask Dominic or myself. Back to you, Vanessa.
Wonderful. Cool. So many multi-talented people here in our group. That's awesome. And I know we have a couple guests on Zoom. Would you all like to share your insights or feedback from tonight's meeting? Let's see, we've got Christopher still on Zoom with us.
Yes, ma'am. I enjoyed it. I liked everything what everybody said. That's about it. I enjoyed it.
Wonderful. Well, we enjoyed having you. Hope you'll come back again in the future. All right. Well, with that, do we have any other club officer announcements before we adjourn our meeting? All right, wonderful. So everyone remember to show up on June 7th at our regular meeting for elections. And thank you again, and I will see you next Tuesday. Have a great evening.
Night, everyone.